Clark, another long three. She's back!
It happened in a blink. Caitlyn Clark, the most unstoppable player in the WNBA, made a pass. The arena was roaring. And then, pain. She clutched her groin. Something was broken. Not just her body, but a season, a team, a system that had been quietly unraveling for months. 5 players, 5 catastrophic injuries, 1 league that looked the other way. How does a dynasty collapse before the world even notices? And why did the silence last so long? This is the 2025 Indiana Fever, a season of talent, turmoil, and truths no one wanted to face. Fever's Fall, 2025. Breakdown. To understand why the 2025 Indiana Fever season
and a lot of contact as she's trying to move to get there.
Wilson
became one of the most heartbreaking stories in WNBA history, you have to understand what this team was supposed to be. This was not a rebuilding project. This was not a team hoping to squeak into the 8th seed. The Fever entered the 2025 season as one of the most exciting rosters in the entire league. Caitlyn Clark was coming off a rookie year that rewrote the record books. Rookie of the Year, first team All-WNBA, league leader in assists and three-pointers. The player who single-handedly transformed the economics of women's professional basketball. The player whose presence turned every arena in America into a sold-out event and every broadcast into a ratings bonanza. Aaliyah Boston, the former #1 overall pick and 2023 Rookie of the Year.
Right to Aaliyah Boston, the All-American, the quick step around, boom!
Was entering her 3rd season and developing into one of the most dominant post players in the league. Kelsey Mitchell, the veteran All-Star guard, was the steady hand that kept the offense flowing when the spotlight was pointed elsewhere. And the front office had made moves. They traded for Sophie Cunningham, the fiery sharpshooter from Phoenix who brought toughness, three-point shooting, and an intensity that every championship team needs. They had Lexie Hull, the Stanford product who had quietly become one of the best defensive wings in the league. They had depth, they had talent, they had momentum, and most importantly, they had the single most marketable and electrifying player in women's basketball history running the show. The expectations were enormous, not just to make the playoffs, which would have been the Fever's first postseason appearance since 2016, but to compete for a championship. The pieces were there, the chemistry was building, the fan base was electric. Gainbridge Fieldhouse was selling out weeks in advance. National television networks were fighting for broadcast rights to Fever games. Key corporate sponsors were lining up. This was supposed to be the year that Indiana basketball, a state that worships the sport like a religion, finally had a WNBA team worthy of that obsession. And for the first 13 games of the season, it looked like all of those expectations might actually be met. Clark was averaging 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, 5.0 rebounds, and 1.6 steals per game. She was not just good, she was transcendent.
Clark. Uh-oh.
Buckle, Clark, please!
The June 14th game against the undefeated New York Liberty, where Clark dropped 32 points with 7 three-pointers, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds in a 102-88 demolition, felt like a statement game, the kind of performance that announces to the rest of the league that this team is coming for the title. The Fever were not just competitive, they were dangerous. And then the injuries started, and they did not stop. The first crack, the trouble did not begin on July 15th. It began before the regular season even started. During the preseason, Clark missed a game due to tightness in her left leg. It seemed minor.
Indiana Fever superstar Caitlyn Clark is officially dealing with an injury. And this time,
A precautionary rest day for a player who had never missed a single game in 4 years at Iowa or her entire rookie WNBA season. Nobody was worried. Clark was iron. She had played through fatigue, through physical defense that bordered on assault, through a rookie season where she absorbed more hard fouls than arguably any player in the league. She did not miss games. That was part of her identity. Then in May, the left quadriceps injury hit. Clark missed 5 games. The Fever adjusted. They leaned on Mitchell and Boston. They survived. Clark came back, played 5 consecutive games. The team went 3-2, and then it looked like the blip was over. But then came the left groin sprain in late June, and Clark was ruled out again. She missed games. She missed the Commissioner's Cup final, which the Fever actually won without her, beating Minnesota in a game that proved the depth of this roster. She missed the All-Star game, for which she had been named a captain in her own home arena. The irony was brutal. The biggest individual showcase in the league, held at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, and the player the city had come to see was watching from the sideline. Clark returned on July 11th, played against the Atlanta Dream, and looked like she was finding her rhythm again.
Season where that has not been the case and have allowed too much dribble penetration.
Well, it allows them. Oh, what a dime. My goodness, the pass from Clark.
4 days later, against Connecticut, she was threading passes and running the offense the way only she can. And then that final pass to Mitchell happened. The one that looked routine until Clark's body told her it was not. Right groin sprain. The Fever called it day to day. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into a month. Clark was living in the gym, rehabbing for hours every day, desperate to get back on the court. Then during a full court workout in early August, her ankle rolled completely forward, resulting in a bone bruise. One injury on top of another. The groin was never fully tested because the ankle would not let her run. On September 4th, 2025, Clark posted the announcement that every Fever fan had been dreading. She would not return for the remainder of the season. The statement was dignified, grateful, heartbroken. I had hoped to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play this season. When I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there, disappointed is not a big enough word to describe how I am feeling. The player who never missed a game had missed 28 of 41 regular season games, 3 separate injuries, 1 lost season, and she was only the beginning. The Avalanche. What happened to the Fever's roster in August 2025 was not a normal string of injuries. It was a catastrophe, the kind of systematic dismantling of a team that makes you wonder if the basketball gods have a personal vendetta. On August 7th, in a game against the Phoenix Mercury, the Fever lost 2 players to season-ending injuries in the same game. Sydney Colson tore her ACL. Ari McDonald broke a bone in her foot. 2 guards. 2 careers interrupted. One night, the Fever's backcourt depth, already strained by Clark's absence, it was suddenly gutted. The team that had built itself around the most dynamic perimeter attack in the league,
Clark working on Cunningham, gets inside, Clark gets it to go, and
was now running out of players who could dribble the ball up the court. Then came August 17th, the game against the Connecticut Sun. Sophie Cunningham, the player who had been traded to Indiana specifically to provide toughness and shooting for a playoff run, was defending in the paint when Bria Hartley drove to the basket and fell into her right leg. The collision was ugly. Cunningham grabbed her knee immediately. She lay on the floor while teammates gathered around her. Aaliyah Boston draped herself over Cunningham protectively, and the medical staff eventually helped her off the court, putting almost no weight on her right leg. The diagnosis came 2 days later. Torn MCL, season over. Cunningham, to her enormous credit, held no ill will toward Hartley. The two were friends. There was no malice in the play. But her sister, Lindsay, said what a lot of people were thinking. She went on social media and directed a message at the WNBA that cut straight to the bone. Maybe you should focus less on finding players for commenting on your poor officiating and more about hiring officials that are able to call a consistent game and protect your athletes. Pathetic. That message landed like a grenade. Because Lindsay Cunningham was not saying something new. She was saying something that players, coaches, and fans had been saying all season, all year, all decade. The officiating in the WNBA has a player safety problem, and the league's response has consistently been to find the people who point it out rather than fix the problem they are pointing at. And then there was Lexie Hull, the one who never went down, the one who played all 44 regular season games and all 8 playoff games despite absorbing punishment that would have sidelined most players weeks earlier. On August 26th, in a game against the Seattle Storm, both players hit the floor. Hull developed a massive knot on her forehead that eventually migrated downward, leaving her with 2 dramatic black eyes that made her look like she had just lost a prize fight. She did not miss a single game. She got checked for a concussion and a facial fracture, got cleared, and was back on the court within days, black eyes and all. Her coach, Stephanie White, looked at her and said what everyone was thinking.
For our sister network, ESPN, Coach Stephanie White of the Connecticut Sun. Coach, great to see you.
I think it really epitomizes Lexie's toughness when you look at her and you see those two black eyes. She is tough as nails. Hull's response, delivered with the dry humor of someone who has accepted that her job involves getting hit in the face, was perfect. I put a patch on the knot, slept with it. The next day, woke up and I was like, the bump is almost gone, but now I have two black eyes. So that was tragic. But at this point, I will not be able to hide it. People know, so I am just rolling with it. She kept rolling with it. Through the black eyes, through a back injury sustained in the playoffs, when players repeatedly ran through her, through the accumulated wear of being one of the last players standing on a roster that was falling apart around her.
About, the two black eyes, just what was your reaction kind of seeing, obviously, the not go down?
Hull played through everything the season threw at her, and what the season threw at her was considerable. Injury and silence. Where this story becomes something larger than basketball, something that speaks to a structural problem in the WNBA that has been festering for years. The Indiana Fever lost 5 significant players to injury during the 2025 season. Their franchise player, the single most important and most watched athlete in the league, was limited to 13 games. Their newly acquired sharpshooter tore her MCL. 2 rotation guards went down with season-ending injuries in the same game. And their toughest wing player absorbed so much physical punishment that she was literally unrecognizable to people who saw her off the court. The league's public response to this cascade of devastation was, by any reasonable measure, insufficient. There were no statements acknowledging the severity of what was happening in Indiana. There was no visible initiative to address the officiating concerns that players and coaches had been raising all season. There was no sense of urgency from the league office that one of its most valuable franchises, the team that was driving more attention and revenue to the WNBA than any other, was being systematically dismantled by injuries while the structures meant to protect its players appeared to be failing. What there was instead was fines. Players who spoke publicly about the quality of officiating were penalized. Players who expressed frustration with the lack of protection on the court were told, through financial punishment, to be quiet. The message was unmistakable even if it was never spoken aloud. The league wanted its players to absorb the hits, accept the injuries, and keep the product on the court entertaining without asking uncomfortable questions about whether enough was being done to keep them safe. This is not unique to the WNBA. Professional sports leagues across the world have a long and ugly history.
She has just been an outstanding basketball player, an outstanding role model,
of prioritizing entertainment value over player welfare. But it hits differently in a league where the athletes are already fighting for respect, for coverage, for salaries that reflect their talent and their draw. These women are not making NBA money. They are not protected by the same level of resources, medical infrastructure, or public accountability that male athletes take for granted. When Caitlyn Clark goes down with an injury, the WNBA does not just lose a player. It loses the single biggest engine of growth the league has ever had. The economic impact of her absence is measurable and massive, and the league's response felt disproportionately quiet. The players noticed, the fans noticed, and eventually the dam broke. Sophie Cunningham spoke openly on her podcast about her injury and her recovery.
Sophie Cunningham is in the house on the set here at Diamondbacks Live, but apparently Mark Grace had to weasel his way into this appearance on the show,
bringing an emotional honesty that cut through the corporate silence. Lexie Hull kept showing up with bruises that told their own story, louder than any press release ever could. Caitlyn Clark's announcement that her season was over was written with the poise of someone who understood the moment, but the disappointment in her words was unmistakable. And across the Fever fan base and the broader basketball community, a conversation erupted that the league could not ignore. Fans flooded social media with demands for better officiating, better player protection, and better communication from a league office that seemed to be hiding behind boilerplate statements while its most important franchise was bleeding out on the court. The hashtags trended, the clips went viral, the opinion columns piled up, and the underlying message was simple and devastating. If the WNBA wants to be taken seriously as a major professional league, it has to treat its players like they matter. Not just when they are healthy and producing highlights, especially when they are hurt. Fever's resilient rise. The part of the story that does not get enough attention, the part that actually might matter more than any of the injuries. The Indiana Fever did not quit. Despite losing Caitlyn Clark for most of the season, despite losing Sophie Cunningham, Sydney Colson, Aari McDonald, and Chloe Bibby to season-ending injuries. Despite playing more games without their franchise player than with her. Despite every reason in the world to collapse, the Fever made the playoffs. They finished the regular season in 8th place with a record that they built on the backs of the players who stayed healthy, led by Kelsey Mitchell, who exploded into the best basketball of her career, averaging 21.2 points and 3.9 assists per game in the 28 games without Clark. Aaliyah Boston averaged a career high in points and was a wall in the paint. Lexie Hull played all 44 games and set career highs in every major statistical category. The team found something in the adversity that no one expected. And then the playoffs happened.
Extended run from the end of the first quarter. Clark again.
Indiana beat the Atlanta Dream in the first round. And without Clark, without Cunningham, without Colson or McDonald, with a roster held together by veterinary acquisitions, Odyssey Sims and Aerial Powers, who were signed mid-season specifically to fill the gaps left by the injuries. They won, and then they pushed the Las Vegas Aces, the defending champions led by the reigning MVP Aja Wilson, to 5 games in the semifinals. They lost in overtime of Game 5. The season ended, but it ended with the Fever fighting until the last second of the last game, which is exactly what this team had been doing all year. Stephanie White, the head coach who navigated the most difficult injury situation in the WNBA all season, described the team's identity in a single word: resilient. Mitchell backed it up on the court with a 38-point explosion against the Connecticut Sun in the same game Cunningham went down. The most points any WNBA player had scored all season, delivered at the exact moment her team needed it most. Boston said after the game, "We came in at halftime, we talked about chipping away, being resilient. That has kind of been our story this entire season."
A 6-point deficit, just over 5 minutes left to play. Mitchell, feed inside. There's an easy 2 for Boston.
That story is important because it reframes what the 2025 Fever season actually was. From the outside, it looked like a disaster. The franchise players sidelined, the roster gutted, the championship window slammed shut by forces beyond anyone's control. But from the inside, it was a forging. The players who survived the season emerged as battle-tested, playoff-hardened professionals who proved they could compete at the highest level under the worst possible circumstances. Hull proved she belonged as a starter. Mitchell proved she could carry an offense. Boston proved she could anchor a team. And the Fever proved to themselves and to the league that they were not a one-player franchise. They were a team that took everything 2025 could throw at it and still came out fighting. The 2025 season ended, but the story didn't. Injuries healed, games were replayed, records were reset, but the questions remain. How far should a league push its athletes before the cost becomes too high? Who decides what's acceptable when the stars who built the game are the ones paying the price? And when the lights go down and the fans leave, what does accountability really look like? The players have spoken with every pass, every rebound, every grit-filled minute on the court. Now it's the league's turn to answer.